Hey guys, Steb here. Today I want to mainly talk about rescribing panel lines and molds, plus some general scribing tips. Let's start with why I would even do such a thing. Well, if I'm not careful, an untreated panel line could disappear. Okay, I say disappear, but it's more like getting filled in to the point where it's almost gone. When we paint our kits, usually a layer or two of primer, surfacer, or a base coat is applied to the surface. And then comes the subsequent coat of other colors. When there are enough layers of paint on the surface and the panel line is untreated, it's easy to end up with a filled in panel line that can barely hold the ink. But it's still a panel line at the end of the day though, right? Yes, but if it's too shallow, it can very easily get washed away, along with the excess during the panel line process. Additionally, sanding a piece during surface treatment can further shallow these lines, whether it's removing nubs, sink marks, or parting lines. Let's look at this piece from earlier before I painted it blue. It's already had a shallow panel line from the start while having bad sink marks across the surface. And after sanding the surface flat with the 400 grit, I had to further sand it down until its scratches are at 1000 grit level. And at that point, the bottom panel line became super shallow, gone almost. And this is where rescribing comes in. I mainly use two of these tools during this process, a 0.15mm and a 0.2mm chisel. I've been working on 1:144 scale models for a while now, and these two sizes have covered a good amount of panel lines for me. Execution-wise, it's simple. It's just gently passing the scriber along the panel line until it feels deep enough. Now, how deep you want it, I think should depend on the layers of paint, spraying habits, and how intensive the surface treatment can get. Me personally, I spray on the heavier side and I tend to sand a lot of the surface if there's a sink mark or if I'm doing proportion changes. So I make sure to scribe my panel lines pretty deep. And at the very end, I lightly sand over the panel line to deburr it, just in case. Order-wise, I usually focus on rescribing a piece first before anything else. I want to stress again that this is to ensure that my panel lines are deep enough to withstand the sanding later on. This boundock skirt is known for its really deep sink marks, so I make sure to rescribe over its panel lines before any heavy sanding. Next, I want to talk about scribing over molds. Instead of scribing on an already existing panel line, scribing over molds add more panel lines to the kit, which overall results in more details and depth. But there's a very important first step that I recommend adding to the process. And that's using a needle tool to gently score the line with. I find that these glide much more smoothly and softly along whatever it goes against, which is really important because the first passes need to be the most accurate and consistent. I think of it as creating a solid path for the scriber to go along. I also 100% advocate for this step when scribing new panel lines with tape. Wave's needle tool has been my favorite since it's really light and has a similar feel to the chisels that I use. But there's just one thing, they are kind of hard to find if you're in the US like I am. I'm lucky to have this one, but I wanted to find an alternative for others. So I looked up scribing needle on Amazon. I actually found a good amount of products on there, and to test one, I purchased the Harfington 2-piece tungsten scriber for $7. That's a pretty good value, I would say. It's sharp and feels durable. And it worked great too. The only gripe I had with it is that it's a lot heavier than what I'm used to. But overall, I can see this one serving modelers very well. And after making enough passes with the needle, I move on to the scriber. At this point, it's pretty much like rescribing over a panel line. Once it's done, I just go over the line with some sandpaper and it should be good. Another interesting thing I want to mention is that I know some modelers that only use the needle tool for scribing. I think that judgment is based on how sharp their tools are, but I actually have a reason why I wouldn't do that. So the tip of a needle being triangular means that the further it digs inside, the wider the line gets. And I think this is why chisel tools are so highly regarded. No matter how deep they go, the width of the line stays the same. And I know I just blabbed about it for this long, but I don't actually always scribe over mold lines. I don't think of it as the end of the world if I don't do it, but it's a nice bonus when I want to put in the extra effort. On the other hand, I think rescribing panel lines is much more urgent, and I highly recommend anyone customizing their kits in any capacity to make it a habit. In my opinion, the amount of work done is totally outweighed by the benefits. And I guess that's it. I would love to hear some feedback on how I did explaining everything. Was it too overwhelming, or maybe even underwhelming? Anything I could have done better? I would really love to hear or read your thoughts on the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.